Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's me. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday, right? Hotter than hell down here. It's supposed to be some severe thunderstorms later. We'll see. Um, Here we go. We'll have to wait and see about that. Um, Game kind of sucked. It was one-sided. Um, Carson Wentz needs to retire. The Vikings have a quarterback problem, and apparently a defensive problem too. But they're not the team that they used to be, that they were last year or the year before when Donald Donnell was the quarterback. He was really good. These guys are all defensive, and everything else is just not playing up to par right now. Now, you remember yesterday I talked about sanctions. Sanctions are like a financial or limiting the ability of the country that the sanctions are against to sell their products, the distribution of their products to other countries. Now, the problem with this, with where Russia is concerned is, and I think, and they know it, is Trump can't enforce it. Okay? You know, they did it the last time they did it they did it with Iran, and Iran was getting oil from everywhere. You know, it's not feasible. But, you know, it makes him feel good. It's like, I'm going to give you a sanction. You talk bad to me. He's lucky he didn't punch you in the face, you dirtbag. All right, that explains the situation, what they are and everything. They don't mean anything, really. They're not going to cause a big problem unless he tries to enforce it. Then it can cause a war. But that's, you know, which is possible. Trump is doing a lot of things that are like he's daring people to do stuff, you know, in terms of war. And I think that's very dangerous, and I don't know why he's doing it. And we'll have to, you know, someplace has to give with that guy, you know. But we'll wait and see. He's not a very smart man. Now, you know, now let's go on from there, all right, because I'm falling asleep talking about that. Here's an interesting point. Reagan, you know, Ronald Reagan was a president and all that stuff, right? The movie actor. He's responsible for Social Security's problems today because he was the one that discovered that they could borrow money from Social Security and didn't necessarily have to pay it back to balance the budget, because there was a law about balancing the budget. And he pissed off all the Democrats back then, and a lot of the didn't piss off the Republicans because they had to balance the budget. And now everybody borrows from it, nobody pays it back, and that's why we have the problem we have. Because basically there's only one kind of person in this world, and that's like middle age. Once you get to old age, they don't give a shit about you, you know. It's in this country, it's the same thing. You know, the older you get, the less health insurance and the less the doctors give a fuck about you. And they're not doctors, by the way. The regular guy you see every month or so, or 3 months or so, no, they're practical nurses. They couldn't be a doctor in Little Italy, okay? They couldn't even be a mob doctor, all right? They're not bad people or anything like that. They're trying, but their job is to refer you to somebody else. That's all it is. If they can't take care of it, they refer you, you know, if it isn't a cold or something simple, then they refer you to somebody else. Now, Reagan hates tariffs. He hated tariffs. Now, there was an ad going around. It was in the United States, paid for by the Canadian government. So I don't know where it showed up. I don't know if any of you have seen it. But it's true. I read the whole speech that they take parts of to make this ad. The Canadian government put it out, and it's the reason that Trump stopped negotiating with Canada on trade. You know, because Trump got upset and said, "Oh, why are you picking on me? I don't like that ad. You can't put that ad up. It tells the truth." I'm the only idiot that likes tariffs. And that's because he's stealing money from you people, and you're just dumb enough not to realize it yet. It's the whole Republican Party's scheme, is to steal money from the American people. You know, somehow or another, that ballroom that he's building, that's $300 million, that's being financed by all the big shots that we shouldn't be dealing with anymore. But it's a difficult situation because they control some very important companies, you know. So it's hard to say we don't want to deal with them anymore. You deal with it in a limited space, you know. But you almost have to deal with some of the companies that and even though you don't want to. And some of them I don't have any idea what they do. But they're all except make Trump money with this crypto shit, you know. Crypto is just the way they can track your money. Okay, and then what's going to happen is that in the next 5 or 6 years, crypto is going to be probably be the next big thing, and they'll be controlled by artificial intelligence. And you'll, at the drop of a hat, you'll be looking for your money, and you're going to be complaining to machines. So good luck with that one, you know. I always like to go to the bank. I like to talk to the tellers, you know. I got an idea what was going on by how they were dealing with things, you know, and they knew a lot of stuff because they talked to a lot of people. So it was, you know, it was a way to find out stuff. It still is. One of the better ways to find out stuff is to talk to people. The problem now is finding somebody that isn't Indian or Pakistani and can understand English very well, you know. I have that problem with call centers. That's why I learned to fix things, you know. But anyhow, Reagan didn't like tariffs, and that came out in the video. And I haven't seen the whole video. I've just read excerpts from it, and apparently they took excerpts from a speech he made, and I forget the year. I was going to say 1975, but that doesn't sound right. But anyhow. And he thought it was a constraint on free trade and the world economy, economic growth. So, you know, it's like you guys don't understand what Trump is doing to you financially. You know, he's going after he's taking away the solar power, wind power. He doesn't like wind power because it ruined the aesthetics of his golf course in Scotland or something like that. I don't know. But he doesn't like solar power because his money's all invested in oil. All right? Oil has a limited life expectancy. At one point, a few years before I left, they said 38 years before we would hit a point where we wouldn't have enough oil there'd be battles within the country to get oil to run the machinery to feed us, you know. It's probably a little longer than that now because they reduced the use of oil greatly in the last few years. But Trump doesn't like that. He wants it to go back the way it was in the 60s and in the 70s. You know, he wants to build monster cars, you know. The reason he doesn't like small economical cars is he can't fit in them. You know, he's too fat. Even if he did drive, he couldn't fit behind the steering wheel of some of the cars built. He couldn't drive a Maserati or a Ferrari. He couldn't get in or out of it. Now, I'm at an age where I can't get in and out of it, but that's physical limitations. That's not being fat. You get me in the car, I can drive it. Like a bat out of hell, baby. Just getting in and out of it's a bitch. But he can't... He doesn't drive at all. I don't even know whether he's ever had a driver's license, to be honest with you. This is really a child of privilege, you know. That's why he's so fat and ugly, and you know, he needs a makeup artist before he can leave the house in the morning. That hair gets sprayed on with cement, you know. He's blonde, and at his age, he'd be silver. Okay? So he's definitely doing something. If you ever see his beard, you'll be able to tell. But it's just, what he does is he denigrates other products, and then he comes out and sells some garbage that he's been told it's garbage, and he's charging a lot of money for the stuff he sells and stuff like that. He's a con artist, or what did they? Yeah, I guess con artist. He's like a barker at the carnival. Yelling out to get your expectations really high, and even when you win, you don't win. That's Donald Trump for you. He's a horrible man, a horrible, horrible man. But you elected him, now you can deal with it. But anyhow, not worrying about the climate. Now, I worry about the climate because I worry about overpopulation. I worry about a lot of things. And he doesn't. He doesn't worry about, he wants overpopulation. He wants poverty for the American people, and he wants royalty for himself. You're looking at French Revolution times, folks. Let them eat cake, that kind of shit. That's what we're looking at right now, and that's the biggest problem we have right now. That and the dependence upon artificial intelligence, which I read recently, some of it was turned over for the Defense Department to use, and that's the beginning of the end of the human race. Stephen Hawking, you remember the guy in the wheelchair, he was on television a lot. He had ALS, and he lasted, speaking of ALS, he had it for a long time, and nobody else has ever come close to living as long as he did with it, because it's a totally 100% fatal disease. Average is 2 to 5 years. So, but anyhow, he said in a comment, which I read shortly before his death, that the greatest threat to humanity was artificial intelligence. Albert Einstein had said things along those lines, years before he did. Most of the scientists that are out there now that aren't involved in developing artificial intelligence say the effects of it on humanity will be forever, and it's not to progress humanity. It's like they said the computer was going to give people more spare time and everything. People are working harder than ever. All the computer does is allow mathematical calculations to take place at a faster rate. That's what it does. Everything we do is based upon a mathematical calculation of some sort. All right. That's why when you're in school, kids, pay attention to arithmetic, or math, whatever they call it now, because it's one of the things I did because I hated school, is I found out the things that I was going to use, after you go through all this friggin' English and spelling and history lessons, 1492, Columbus discovered America, blah, 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 blah. Once you get into like junior and senior years of high school and college, you understand something that I'm never going to use this. They say, well, you'll use everything, you're bound to use everything. Well, if I have something to tremendously, mathematics, geometry, calculus and whatnot, because I like shooting at distances and everything like that. I've learned, I knew a lot about, I don't think I can do it today, because I don't think I haven't used it in 20 years or more, 30 years. But I used it growing up. I used geometry when I wanted to go figure out the angle of the dangle, you know what I'm saying? Well, I'm fishing, and I caught a lot of fish because of that, because I understood the angle of the dangle. Now, that's important to me, because I'm a craftsman, so that mathematics is important to me. You know, you go to the store, you want to get the right change. That's all, you know, that's important to me. History is important to me. Because from personal experience, I don't want to make the same mistake twice, okay? But I enjoy studying history, trying to find out why certain things happen. That's my personality. I think I told you this. I can't stand somebody saying no to me because I want to know why. You know? And a lot of, especially government agencies, don't bother to tell you why. That was a big thing with my father and me. No. Why, Dad? Because I said so, that's why. No. I never knew why I couldn't do these things, you know, but that's, you know, a personal issue. So I liked mathematics, I loved history and the politics, and I hated English because I said to myself, nobody's going to write like this unless they're a writer. And there's nothing wrong with the way I speak, okay? My mom taught me how to speak. She was an English teacher. I don't need grammar. I don't need, you know, I don't necessarily have to understand the reasonings for things, you know. I used to read poetry until an English teacher told me when I analyzed the poem that I was a lunatic because I said I didn't get the meaning that they got out of it. And I said, you know, it's like I met a wine sommelier one time who said that wine tasting is a personal choice. If I say it tastes like chicken, it tastes like chicken to me. If you say it tastes like shit, it tastes like shit to you. Okay, it's a personal choice. So poetry is a personal choice. You know, I got the gist of the meaning of the poem, but I didn't get the meaning that they thought the poet was trying to get across to you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday. I've got things to do. They're predicting some severe storms this afternoon, so I got some things I got to do. Go to the store and whatnot, take care of some business. I'll be back tomorrow with football predictions. I hope I'm a little bit more interesting today. I don't know. I find that if I can focus on one particular subject for a few minutes, I'm pretty coherent about it. Then I start to wander around like I am now. So anyhow, subscribe to my little old video channel here, and I appreciate that if you do. If you have, I love you dearly. If you're not, come on, folks, cut me some slack, huh? Help me out a little bit. Make me feel impotent, you know what I'm saying? But baby, make me feel impotent, yeah. All right, now that's it. I'm out of here. Have a good weekend. Ciao. Well, good Friday anyhow. Ciao.